to start by recognizing especially our global award-winning Vice President, Mrs. Uto Upana, FCIS. Mrs. Upana wears 2 caps today. She's the Vice President of the Institute and also the Chairman of the Conference Planning Committee that has put this together. So another one round of applause for her. Thank you very much. Okay, so I also want to recognize our indefatigable honorary treasurer, Mr. Francis Olawale, FCIS, who himself is also wearing 2 caps today as our treasurer and also the Chairman of Publications Committee. And of course, we'll be having some governance materials unveiled later in the course of the conference. Our immediate past president, Mr. Taiwo Wokalade, FCIS. And I must say that the current leadership of ICSAN stands on very broad shoulders of giants. And those are our past presidents who have laid the foundation for a strong and virile institute that we're all proud of today. And on that note, please, ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome in our midst all our past presidents who had earlier been recognized. Past President Tunde Busari, FCIS, is here physically with us, and I'm sure some are also online. Thank you so much for all the great work that you have done and you continue to do for the Institute. We do appreciate you, sirs. So the conference chairman, Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika, thank you so much for honoring us today, ma'am. We really appreciate your time. Our keynote speaker, Professor Fabian Ajogu, OFR, who, please, can you give him a warm round of applause? Thank you very much. I was going to say a few things about him. You know, he says he feels very much at home, right? Because each time we have called on Prof, he never says no to ICSAN. And the next step now is to become a proper ICSAN family member. And he has promised to do that. Thank you again, Prof, for always. Our speakers, Mrs. Godri Obeche and Dr. Paula Laje, our distinguished panelists, Professor Bayo Adaralegbe, one of our very own, also a council member of ICSAN, and Mrs. Oyinda Amola Iwere, FCIS, members of the Governing Council of ICSAN, our chairman of diverse sectoral groups of ICSAN, chairman of all ICSAN's chapters, chairman of council committees, fellow chartered secretaries and administrators, distinguished guests, members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm, ladies and gentlemen. It is my utmost delight to welcome you all to this 48th annual conference of our great institute, the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. The annual conference is a flagship of the institute, is a flagship program of the institute, which offers the platform for all our members and other key stakeholders in the Nigerian socio-economic landscape to gather and put their collective experiences, capacities, skills, and competencies to task by brainstorming on some issues of national importance with a view to profiling workable solutions to those issues. That is what we have gathered once again to do today. But before I go on, I crave your indulgence to defer to our custom of making some few remarks about our institute for the benefit of guests and non-members who may have little knowledge about the institute and what it stands for. So ICSAN is the foremost and leading professional body that is dedicated to enhancing the status and practice of corporate governance and public administration. ICSAN is the only statutorily recognized professional body in Nigeria that is authorized to conduct examinations leading to the qualification as chartered secretaries and administrators. ICSAN is a member of the Corporate Secretaries International Association, CSIA, a global organization that is dedicated to improving professional standards, quality of governance practice, and organizational performance. Over the years, ICSAN has consistently promoted the ideals of corporate governance through periodic issuance of public papers and guidance materials on corporate and public administration. The theme of this year's conference is reassessing the governance dynamics in Nigeria's transition to enduring development and national prosperity. And it is at once very apparent that this theme has a direct bearing on Nigeria's contemporary socio-economic reality of today. given the fact that the nation is currently in dire need of enduring all-round economic development. You would agree with me that good governance is a bedrock of national progress, and empirical evidence abound of how nations have broken the barriers of stagnation and retrogression and transited to development and prosperity through the creation and sustenance of strong national institutions, which are all driven by good governance. And of course, we have several examples of such countries. We have Singapore, we have Malaysia, we have Hong Kong, and so on and so forth. Therefore, for a nation to progress in all ramifications, the leaders must see growth as top priority and not just an option. The good news is that no matter how backward the nation is in its social, political, and economic life, a positive change is achievable if its governance dynamics are tinkered by principled and committed leaders who muster the political will to lay the requisite foundations for good governance. This informs the reason why our institute chose this very pertinent theme for this year's 2024 annual conference. The imperative of reassessing Nigeria's governance dynamics should be apparent to all, given the plethora of challenges currently bedeviling the nation. Our conviction in having this conversation is rooted in the logic and observable facts that prove that good governance is a recipe for national transformation. If we all agree that Nigeria is currently not where it ought to be, given our potentials and enormous resources, both in talent, skills, and competencies of our people, then we need to also agree on the imperative to assess our governance dynamics. This is because growth and enduring development do not just happen, but must be deliberately planned and progress constantly monitored. We must indeed be intentional about it. In addition to the main topic, the main theme that I have just highlighted, there are two other development-focused sub-themes which would add extra dimensions and perspectives to enrich the discourse. I am pleased to inform you that the Institute has painstakingly assembled a formidable array of speakers and panelists to treat this enriching theme and also the sub-themes, with a view to generating useful ideas and practical recommendations for the benefit of all. I am confident that we would all benefit immensely from their presentations and commentaries. Of course, as earlier acknowledged, the chairman of the conference is the iconic Mrs. Ibukun Abiodun Awoshika, an African entrepreneur, author, international leader, and global culture shaper. Mrs. Awoshika holds the distinction of being the first female chairman of First Bank of Nigeria. Please appreciate our chairman. Our keynote speaker, Professor Fabian Ajogu, is a seasoned professional, senior advocate of Nigeria, legal author, and Nigeria's first professor of corporate governance. Prof holds a full professorship with the Lagos Business School, Pan Atlantic University. Other speakers are also very distinguished personalities in their respective areas of expertise. And in addition to these illustrious speakers, which are Mrs. Godry Ogbeche and Dr. Paul Agbaje, we also have Professor Bayo Adaralegbe, SAN-FCIS, and also Mrs. Oyindamola Eiwere, FCIS. So with the quality of the names are reeled out already, I am sure that you have an idea of what you should expect at this conference. There can be no gainsaying the fact that this conference will be interesting, expository, educative, enlightening, and critically engaging. I believe that the depth of the discourse at today's conference will generate practicable ideas on the all-important national issue of expanding the frontiers of good governance to stimulate our economy and also stimulates phenomenal growth we all desire. I want to end this address without specially thanking the conference and AGM committee of the Institute, ably led by our VP, Mrs. Uto Ukana, FCIS. Members of the committee, please wave your hands wherever you might be seated. Thank you so much for all your hard work. I am quite aware of the enormity of the tasks and the responsibilities. They are laughing. We all know why we are laughing. But thank God for strength. Thank you very much for your tenacity. The Institute appreciates you. Please, once again, help me to appreciate these wonderful gentlemen and ladies. I would like to also thank our sponsors and partners, and particularly, I would love to mention MTN Nigeria. You know, MTN Nigeria did not only support us in cash, they also supported us in kind. We really, really appreciate the management, and we appreciate all the support they have also been giving to our Vice President. We thank you all. We see some of them around the tables. Thank you also for attending the conference. All right. I think I'll just close now. I'm trying to keep it as brief as possible. Once again, esteemed governance practitioners, distinguished guests, our chairman, our keynote speaker, I welcome you all very warmly to the 2024 annual conference of our great institute, and I wish us rewarding and fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much for your attention.